Taxes are an issue at the heart of the 2024 presidential election, and this week CNBC squawked at Kamala Harris's economic advisors Barrett Ramos for arguing in favor of an unrealized capital gains tax, taxes on things like real estate and property.
I bet that the majority of people watching right now are already paying a tax on unrealized gains. It's called a property tax. When the value of your home goes up,
that's an old.
It's a use tax.
When the value of your home goes up, you pay higher taxes, even if you don't sell your home.
Your value of your home never moves the way a stock moves, the way something else moves.
That's always the go-to answer.
It's also, property tax is a use tax. You're paying for the schools. You're paying for emergency services. Those are things that make absolute sense.
And sure, and all the revenue that comes in from these unrealized gains taxes and the other taxes in the Harris plan are going to go to creating what she calls more opportunity. It's to make sure that every newborn born in this country gets $6,000.
Using the services.
And it was never in anyone's intent to tax.
It's not an income tax.
And it's never going to happen.
What do you think is going on here, Jessica?
Well, there are a lot of very wealthy people who have a lot of unrealized capital gains. They, use this as collateral to take out loans. So it essentially acts as liquid cash for a lot of very wealthy people. Let's say you have $1 million in investments, it's property, it's stock, etc. You can leverage that and get a loan from the bank at the equivalent of $1 million. And so for a lot of people, this acts as money. It acts as liquid capital in that way. And so taxing it is almost necessary with these folks. Now, what Kamala Harris is proposing is not radical. The current capital gains structure is you pay 0% up to $50,000. From $50,000 to $500,000, it's 15%. From $500,000 and above, you're currently paying 20%. That's all the same as it is now today. What Kamala Harris and the White House is proposing changing is that for anyone who has $1 million and more of unrealized capital gains, or rather capital gains, money they've made off of money they already have, that's 39.6%. And if you're a billionaire, it's going to go up on unrealized capital gains for 44.6, any dollar over $1 million. So the way this manifests, let's say if you have a house, you sell it for $100,000, you're only paying 15% on every dollar over that $50,000. So the actual real rate of $100,000 in capital gains would be 7.5, not 15%. And so a lot of people are fear-mongering, saying this is a huge increase. This is going to affect working class and middle class people. Nothing's going to change for working class and middle class people. If you're a billionaire or a millionaire, you might be upset, but at the end of the day, it's a popular policy issue to have the very wealthy paying their fair share in taxes.
More and more. Yeah, I don't know. I think she should loudly proclaim that, and we'll see what people think. But people, paying more money on these kinds of, not directly tangible assets doesn't seem like it's going to be popular with. I mean, it's not just millionaires and billionaires who have who fall into this category, right? It's people who engage in the stock market, which is a much wider swath of people. And, here they are already paying property taxes, already paying income taxes, already paying sales taxes, already paying taxes on all sorts of things for all sorts of services. And now Kamala Harris wants to come in and extort more money out of them. I don't know how popular that's going to end up being, even if it doesn't touch the people on the lower end of the economic distribution. Not that I don't want them to pay anymore. I don't want anyone to pay more in taxes. I want more people, no matter how rich or poor you are, to keep more of your money. It's your money. You earned it. You should decide what to do with it. And a lot of people don't like how the government ends up spending their money, not just to enrich their community or pay for their school system, but on an unwieldy federal bureaucracy, on a inefficient health system and everything, and entitlement system and military spending and all of that. I think it would be better if we constrain the government and let people keep more of their money.
Well, I think because it's popular among the American people to tax the very wealthy, and usually when this polling question is asked, that's defined as people earning over $400,000 or more. This is only applying to people with specifically over $1 million in capital gains. So they're making over $1 million on money they have invested. So you have to be like a multimillionaire for this policy to even affect you, to even touch you. Because as I said, all of the other, metrics are exactly the same. 0% up to $50,000, only 15% from 50 to 500,000, and 20% over 500K. That's all how it exists today. The only raising is on people with over $1 million in capital gains. And that metric goes up to the 44.6% from 39.6% if you are a billionaire, if you have over $1 billion in wealth. So I think that, even if you look at, let's say someone has a large retirement account or big investment property, their capital gains is going to be $525,000. The real actual amount of money they're paying is not going to be 20% of 500,000. It's going to only be 20% on that 25,000 that exceeds 500K. So the total amount of money they would pay in taxes on 525,000 in capital gains is $72,500, which is a real rate of 13.8%. And so I think there's a lot of fear mongering going around with the sticker shock. Ben Shapiro made a video saying, oh my God, we're all going to have to pay, 44% in taxes. No, only the very, very wealthy will be paying that.
Well, we'll have to see how this plan goes over with the Americans. Maybe Kamala will be asked about it in this upcoming interview she's going to do tonight, I believe, with CNN, her and Tim Walz. Obviously, I've criticized her for being light on policy pronouncements so far, although then when she actually does propose a policy, it's inevitably one I don't particularly care for. Obviously the rich should pay their fair share, although, who determines what's the fair share for how much of someone else's money should be confiscated by the government? But maybe that's just the cranky libertarian in me. I mean, they pay obviously in real terms far more dollars than anyone else. It's you can say, well, it doesn't matter as much to them because they have so much money. But I think the individual is, for the most part, the best at understanding how to spend one's own money rather than some distant, vast federal bureaucracy that spends money on all sorts of things I don't think it should be spending money on. But we'll have to see if this becomes reality under a future Harris administration.
Yes, I think that the way I think about it is we look at what incomes have looked like across the economy. We look at the regular average worker getting paid less and less over time and wages stagnating despite productivity increasing since the 1970s, about inflation adjusted. We look at what the minimum wage is worth today in purchasing power because prices have gone up, and we see that it's worth much less than it was worth in 1968. Over 30% less in purchasing power is what you're getting on a minimum wage annual income in the United States. Why? We've seen corporate profits increase exponentially. So the money made off of workers being infinitely more productive is all going to the top. So how do we equalize that? If they're keeping wages low and keeping prices high and squeezing workers from both sides, you've got to do something to equalize the amount of income in the economy. Because what we've seen is basically the wealthy reverse Robin Hooding the working class, stealing from the poor and giving to the rich. And a lot of these people that are having over $1 million in capital gains annually are not working. They're just turning their money into more money. How? The money is invested in rental properties and in America's largest corporations, which again are bringing in money off of the backs of working people and not giving them their fair share. And so should you be able to earn $1 million off of other people's work who are struggling to get by when you sit on your butt? I think that's not the American way. And I think that's why this is going to ultimately become a popular policy once they break through a lot of the misinformation about how the tax structure works and really how the economic setup is, that this is not taking money from regular working people. It's actually going to help set things right.
More Rising right after this.